Now we're live. Hello.
Hello.
We'll give everyone a minute to land. Yay! If you're here, say hello. My friends, we're just gonna drop right in. With me is my sweetheart, my darling, my partner in absolutely everything. This is Robert. And we don't have a plan for today other than it's been so long that Robert has been at my side and the full supporter of every one of my dreams from the very first moment that we met and the very short period after in which we dated until we married immediately and started our family immediately and really birthed May Lindstrom Skin together immediately. It's been my name. It's been my name on all the boxes. It's my name on every piece of branding. It's my name everywhere. But there is nothing that I do that I wouldn't have done like this without Robert. And so I'm nervous to do justice to an introduction, which I can't, but I'm so excited to have you here.
That's all right, Diana, because you don't have to do it all one time. We're going to be doing this for a long time, so we get to repeat ourselves. And so if we miss something, it's okay.
Yeah, mostly this is the man that talks me off all my personal cliffs.
It would take a decade to tell the whole story of the last decade, so
it does.
It'll be incomplete, I promise.
Yeah. Well, I think we're just going to jump right in because there's already some questions here and you're saying hi and I tend to get way ahead of myself if I don't stop and read all of your comments. So I'm going to do that and then we'll just dive in. So just, if you know nothing about Robert, in short, maybe you should say what you're in charge of. What you do.
Oh, what I'm in charge of.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I was in charge. That was going to be a bio or what I do.
For context, so that questions can have a direction or things that people want to know. Sometimes we talk about it like if this was a restaurant.
Yeah.
I am the chef and the creator of these recipes, but my day-to-day is out on the floor feeding all of you and talking to all of you. And Robert is my team in the back making all of the things, all of the promises that I make and all of the relationships that are forming here. He's the substance behind all of that, overseeing our production, our shipping, our kitchen lab, all of the in-person operations. He's there when the ingredients come through the door and make their way to the kitchen lab. He's there as packages go through the hands of our incredible shipping team. And he's there every morning and every night and has been this whole time. So yeah, fundamentally it's operations and all of the mechanics and moving parts and systems and day-to-day things. But I would say that you are also the driver behind the incredible care of our team and the enforcement of all of our heart policies, putting them into physical action.
Well, that is a pretty good summary of what I do. Yeah, the front of house, back of house analogy seems pretty apt, and I'm certainly resistant to take credit for a bunch of the work that May just described that is done in our company, because I don't do a lot of it. Like, we have a whole team.
Right. But we both have whole teams. We have the front of house team and the back of house
There's
team.
a lot of jobs that I still I do. But yeah, sorry, I'm definitely unaccustomed to being on this side of Instagram Live. Actually, I don't know if I've ever watched an Instagram Live other than yours. I don't really understand what they're for, but I'm appreciative of all of you here watching along as we do this live. But yeah, I'm a mechanical engineer by training, so I'm a systems thinker, and so I just tend to describe myself as like the architect of May Lindstrom Skin and our systems and how they interact with each other and play together. And the first sort of groups of our company that we built out of more or less not having May do them anymore or as much of them is well, we used to do everything. So, the actual making of the product and the building of our production team, the fulfillment of all the orders and our shipping team, our customer service team, the Care Bears that you all know and love, who you get to interact with the most. Those are sort of the three foundational core parts of our company. They're how we keep the promises that we make through Instagram and our website. And I'm really proud of that because it's one of the things that makes us rare in the skincare world, that we do all of those things in-house, and that they're the first things that we did. Isn't really that surprising because they were the hard things that we couldn't just do by ourselves anymore. But they're so just sort of fundamentally what our company is about. It's not about advertising or big blitz. It's about making the product beautiful, having it be beautiful when it arrives to you, and having any questions you have about it be answered beautifully. and that's really all I do every day. So there's a lot to that, and the sort of art and science of how to make that all sort of work smoothly, and is definitely what I think about a lot. Urgency is a big pet peeve of mine because it's definitely fabricated, and so I try to design it out of our company as much as possible, and it certainly happens. Our customer service team and our fulfillment team, they have daily things that have to happen with some sort of amount of time related to them, because someone will have emailed or someone will place an order, and there's a speed expectation usually with the answer or the shipment or something like that. But the rest of it, that urgency and that frantic, what do we do, is almost always invented, either by poor design or not knowing how to say no to things. And so I try to protect the team from those sorts of choices as much as I can. So I don't think I was answering a question there, but those are some things that came to mind as I was thinking about what I do at May Lindstrom Skin. And so, and to me it's simple, but I've also been doing it for, I say a decade, but in 2015 was when May Lindstrom Skin became large enough for it to be my 100% job. And so for 7 years, there's been a daily attention from me to our team, and actually from that same time, our company was big enough to support our family since then. And so any amount of growth has been, we certainly benefit from it. But it's mostly what's exciting to me about my job since then is my job to take care of our team. And so, so when a system doesn't work, or when the tools don't work, or it's wow, that looks really tiring, let's not do it that way anymore. Or, that's more or less my job, is just wander around and see, well, that's kind of broken, or that could be better. And so it's an exciting place to be as a problem solver. It can be an interesting place to be because it can make me future oriented, because I can almost always see how things will be better even when they're great currently. And so there can be dissatisfaction in that I don't fall for too often. But yeah, so I'm almost always excited, because whether you've been with us for 10 years or if today is your first order, I'm certainly grateful for all of you who've been with us for 10 years, and there's a lot of you. I recognize all your names. And, I love promo time and seeing all the familiar faces as I'm tucking notes into our orders. And I just finished, grouping a bunch of orders that will go out tomorrow for our promo. Sorry we're late. That was me. That was a good ramble I was going on, but there was something right there at the end that I wanted to close that off with, and I forgot what it was. That happens. It does. Do you remember where I was going? No. Could you see it inside my brain?
Man, we're evolved in our marriage, but not that evolved.
May and I are opposites in most ways.
I'm going to read your comments while he tells you
we'll get to that. But May and I are we get along very well, but we're very dissimilar in a lot of ways. We have, I always joke that we have probably 100% values alignment, maybe not 95%, 90%, mostly. We have values alignment and almost no skill overlap at all. And so we don't actually have that much conflict around what to do. because on the doing of things, I don't do what she does and she doesn't do what I do. And so we don't actually have very much conflict there. And it's great because we're both really skillful at the things that we're good at. And so it's helpful to be good at things. It's helpful to, what's more exciting now is to be working with other people that are really good at what they do. And that's certainly our team now. Like, they're so skilled and practiced at what they do that, you know, I definitely feel like the sort of goofy, dumb boss when I go try to be helpful. It's like, well, I definitely remember I did this a long time ago, but like, how's this work? And so there's another interesting thread there. But yeah, May and I don't really have much conflict around the actual work to be done, because we don't try to do each other's work very often anymore.
That was certainly one of the challenges when we first started working together is, well, we both feel like we're really good at the things that we do.
And we're both the boss. And so like when we'd be having a team meeting and like May would say one thing and I'd be like, that's not how we're gonna do that, because that's not how we're gonna do it, or something. Like, it's just not, it's like a funny dynamic to have like play out live in front of the team. But you know, conflict is healthy too. Like, we don't run a company together for a decade and just have it all be, you know, sunshine and moonbeams. But it also, all the time, most of the time it is, because even when we're making hard calls, they're usually about things that are important to us, and so it's really easy to make a call. Dealing with what happens next, the circumstances from that decision might be hard, but the deciding itself rarely is.
Yeah.
And so
I feel like the conflicts that come up for us in business are because we both think that we have a better way to do better. And so it's more, are we going with my way of doing better or your way of doing better? And either way, every day, our company goal from the very beginning is just to show up and do better today than we did yesterday, and give more today than we did yesterday. And every day we get to evolve into what that means. And there's been so many chapters of the evolution of our business. In the beginning, it was literally me pouring every single bottle and blending every single batch, and Robert running back and forth to the post office. And we've evolved from that to, we hired one person to help me mix, and then two people to help me mix, and then somebody to handle the shipping, and then two people to handle the shipping, and then suddenly there was 4, and then there was 5, and then there was 7, and then there was 20. And you just, and for perspective of size, how big are we?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the shipping team there, and I'm like, went to 5 and then back to 4.
The ways in which we've replaced ourselves from the beginning, like it started in this. I mean, the ingredients were coming in the door to our home kitchen when we first began, when we first met back in 2011, 2012. We moved into our first studio space in Chinatown in downtown Los Angeles, and stayed there for 5 years. We moved there in early 2014.
We did not stay there that long. So we moved there in 2014, and then we moved to our current headquarters in October of 2018. And so that was almost 4 years ago. And that's pretty wild because almost everyone who works for us has still worked for us for a long time. So most people that work for us that work in person remember being in Chinatown, but that was a long time ago. It's been almost 4 years since we moved out of that space and into our current space, which is much nicer and much better in almost every way, except the food scene in Chinatown at that time was pretty fantastic. There's definitely better food in Chinatown. I miss that, but that's about it. But so we have 25 or so people, including May and I, and I would say the exact breakdown I'm not going to get right, and it probably doesn't particularly matter. But there's 15 or 16 of us work in person at our studio and our production and shipping teams, and our customer service team is...
So that's all the people who physically make all of the product, who intake all of the fresh ingredients, who batch everything up, who quality
control all our glassware and the boxes and apply the lot number stickers and
blend the actual
make
batches,
the product
fill
and
the actual
cap
bottles.
it, and then polish it again, and then box it, and then you put it in the backstock shelf, and then handle it nicely when we move it to the pick cabinet, and then repick it again, and put it back into a beautiful box that's then shipped around the world to wherever you are. And so, we do that down the street right here in Lincoln Heights, which is the next neighborhood northeast of Chinatown. So we're northeast Los Angelinos. And yeah, it's a small team.
And then the care team.
And then the care team. Sorry, that's where I keep getting distracted. So we've, in COVID, it's certainly changed or made this more common for lots of other companies. But we've always had a hybrid workforce. At least even from when I was in the beginning times when we had wholesale partners, may travel a decent amount with a variety of members of our team, and so they'd be gone. And yeah, probably about a third of our company has always been remote, and that's still true now. So and actually this right now, May and I have been home on COVID isolation, and so I've been home too. And I've been home for some amount over the last couple of years, but it's been really helpful empathy for me to be one of our remote employees. May was always kind of my canary in the coal mine of like what it's like to be one of our remote employees, because she tends to mostly work from her computer wherever she is. And so, anyways, it's I get lots of different ways to solve problems. There's these physical ones, but then it's like, well, what is it like to use your computer for a long time at home? Like, is there an office for that? How do you get set up for that? How does the team be supported and cared for? I feel I'm pretty self-conscious about that I don't do a good job of supporting our remote team. And so that's, again, my future focus of like, I know what I could probably be doing or what I'd like to be doing versus what I do. But it's just try to operate with as much empathy as possible of like, what is it like to actually do this work? And the bulk of our work is physical, and so there's a lot of empathy for that. So we have lots of sort of I'm like pretty rule resistant because I'm an edge pusher. As soon as I find a rule, I try to find out where the limit of it is. So I'm resistant to making them for our team. Also because they're adults. They know what to do. I like to think of our company in terms of guardrails. It's just sort of like, well, we just don't go over there. You can do whatever you want. It's like here, and I try to make that space as big and spacious as possible. How's this ramble going?
Well, it's good. Good ramble. But I think our goals are really clear. We have different kinds of goals in most companies. I think because we're not trying to grow at some massive speed. The word scale is not a word that's used in our operation in any way. Our commitment is always just to the quality and to the service and to the care and to the beauty of the whole thing. And when we approach it like that, from this sense of wonder and possibility and what could it be, both in terms of the beautiful experience that we deliver you, but also romantically what I hope that companies can be, what I hope that humans can be, what I hope that all of us who show up and give our whole lives to our work, which we do, is just the culture we're in, that if we can pour it into something that's generative and that does good in the world, that ripples out. There's so much that goes into these bottles that we ship around the world, and it's far beyond the herbs and spices and oils and all the beautiful things. It's the intentionality and the care, and that trickles through from how we source to what it means to bring truly, truly fresh ingredients from this year's harvest to our kitchen, to mixing everything fresh, to the birthdays that go on every lot, to every bit of that being our hands, in our sight, in our control. This is not just a name slapped onto a bottle that's a generic at some company. Like, that's not what this is. It's absolutely blood, sweat, and tears of 25 humans who are just obsessed with doing an unbelievable best in the world job for all of you. And it might seem like an over-the-top aspiration, but I think we need it. And
sure. Or like in the absence of that aspiration, like, what's the point?
Yes, what is the point?
There's enough stuff, right? Like there's no, stores aren't empty. Like there isn't an internet with a shortage of things to buy.
Including
right?
skincare.
Yeah,
There's
obviously.
a billion skincare brands out there, and we don't need to exist unless we bring you something that's beyond the skin. And I say that as someone who, I don't know what formulas I would possibly use, if not the ones I literally invented for my own self. So this company has to survive, at least so that I can continue having my own skincare. But fundamentally, I think that our company could do anything because it's not about product. The product is the most unbelievable side effect that I've ever had to any idea I've ever had. But what we're building from the inside, what it feels like, is something else. It's like a template for the way we want to be as humans. And my hope is always is that that's the thing that lands, is that that's the thing that, you know, other people can take and build from. You know, your skincare, that's for you. That's personal, it's intimate, it's so rich and beautiful when you can have that relationship with yourself. Being a part of that care is the honor of my life. Skincare is skincare. Also. And so, if I'm going to spend my life and share my name with a product, with a company, to have made myself a noun in that way, I want it to be worth it and for it to mean something. And it does.
Yeah, it does. Well, like, so one little hack that I was pretty proud of when it occurred to me is with this sort of front of house, back of house split in our company, May and the Care Bears, they get to interact with you. They get to see if it was good or not, if you liked it, what was the feedback. You know, and the rest of us don't see that, or we didn't. And so we communicate using Slack is our internal mechanism for talking to each other. And we have a channel just called Happy Clients. And so when you send in a beautiful note with a message, or when there's an email exchange that's like particularly, when there's happy clients, the Care Bears share that with the rest of us so that the rest of us can see.
So we have this streaming Slack channel that's just all of your love notes, and everybody in the company gets to just see this stream of this love all day, every day. And
yeah, and it's like, well, just selfishly for me, it's like incredibly nourishing for me. Like, I'm the CFO of May Lindstrom Skin too, so I deal with all sort of money matters and things like that. And like sales and profits and things like that are like the easiest thing to measure about, like, is the company working, or am I doing a good job? And but it's a trick, because like it's just a number, and like it's relative. And so a number that felt good 10 years ago would be like scary and frightening if I saw it today. And so like the numbers are fickle, even though they don't have emotions, or, you know, it's me telling the story about the numbers. But it's very clear that anyways, for me, easily the last year, I've replaced, you know, measuring the numbers with measuring happy clients. Happy clients is like my key performance indicator of whether we are doing a good job, or if what our company is for is it's doing what it's for. And so obviously there's other things for, like, whether it's doing a good job of taking care of our employees and being a custodian of the environment. There's like lots of different shareholders and stakeholders of any company, and not just, you know, its customers and its employees, but like that's like beautifully for us, the prime two stakeholders. You know, as you've heard
May
say,
literally.
like,
we're independent.
This is an independent company. Like, there are no investors in this company other than you. Like, yeah, it's a simple sentence. Like, there's no outside money.
Right. We started with personal credit card debt.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta bet on yourself first.
Yeah, and there's lots of ways to build a business. I'm certainly grateful that we've bootstrapped ours. Yeah, because that keeps it really clean. Like, we answer to you, and we answer to employees, and the law, obviously. There's those things too, and we answer to all of that as well. But it keeps things really simple, and the world even a simple company becomes complex. Yeah, take a bunch of simple rules and have them interact with each other, and you can create a lot of complexity. and a lot of beauty out of that. And I think that's what we've done here, but it can still be a lot of moving parts. And so I'm just grateful that we're in a position to at least be in charge of what those simple rules are. And then if we get to a place where those simple rules have turned into something that we don't want, we can change it. And so, well, I love that. Because all I want to do is, do a good job by you guys and by our client, by our employees. And that keeps my life pretty simple too. So now May's going to scroll back and look. I'm sure there were some other questions. There's questions about what's it like to work with your spouse, or like what's working together like. And, we touched on that a little bit. Luckily, again, because of that lack of skill overlap, we don't have that much conflict. Like if we were both graphic designers, well, I would assume that May would be a better one of those than me, and so I'd just lose all the time. That would be a bummer. But yeah, like with our backgrounds, we don't really have a whole lot of overlap. There was a question about what it was like in the very beginning when we were both like working from home, and what was simple about that was I wasn't. I was doing something else. I did all of my jobs at May Lindstrom Skin as my side job. Because
right, in the very, very beginning.
In back in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, those years. And I've had like so many random and disjointed careers. If you want to, you just go look at my LinkedIn and be like, that guy's done a bunch of random stuff.
Because he's not going to say it. When I met Robert, he was a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
He was the architect of the fuel station for a rocket. And now he is the architect for the fuel station
for your
of
face.
all of my dreams. And for all of your faces and hearts and delight. So.
It is true. So yeah, I was the architect of a launch site for a liquid fuel rocket in Virginia, and I also started a solar crowdfunding company 12 years ago, and so I know a lot about how to finance solar, and I actually do that still. And I've done so many random things. It doesn't really matter what I've done. Also, part of my aerospace time, I did kind of combustion research and things like that. So it's been interesting to see the ways that all those sort of random jobs have come together. Actually, my very first job when I was a kid was working in a skincare company because my mom sold Jafra skincare products, which you guys are probably familiar with. But so I would be labeling.
I wasn't.
It wasn't.
It's
familiar.
like Mary Kay.
It's like Mary Kay, based in Westlake Village, right here down the street in Los Angeles. So, anyways, growing up, that was in my household. My mom worked with them. And so I did her inventory and I did her paperwork and stuff.
As a child.
For $4 an hour.
So my mother-in-law was raising Robert for me.
8-year-old. And so it's all come full circle for me. But yeah, that experience of like building test facilities and just, I don't know, inventing how to measure something, it comes in handy all the time. We're not that particularly mechanized of an operation, not really an industrial company, but we have a small factory. And things break. They don't work as intended, or they definitely don't come out of the box just working the way they do. And actually, that's an interesting aspect of my job, even just on the software side of things, is for most of the time when May Lindstrom Skin, the company, is going to do something new or trying to solve some problem, it's interesting because we really dislike doing things the way other people do them. Or I do. I'm enough of a contrarian that I just want to... it's fine for me to see what the best practices are, but it's been interesting to see as like software tools come in or just different things. Almost all of the features that are built into most tools for companies are to do something that we just fundamentally don't do. And so it's interesting to just almost always ask everyone, how much of that can we turn off? And if the answer is like you can't, then it just simplifies things and we don't talk to them anymore because we're not going to use their tool. And so I don't know. I think I fell into this thread of like, there's a lot of things that we don't do, and no's are really powerful. And then the things that we're a yes to, May touched on this earlier, but the way I frame it is that we're all for generous yeses. So yeses that are a win for our team and a win for our clients. And if things are like a win-win like that, then that's all I want to do all the time. And so definitely all for generous yeses. And sometimes we make yeses that are the cost of our internal effort. They're not all the way generous on the inside. But we usually,
things that are hard.
But we tend to try to find a way to make it generous, right? Or it's like, okay, well, how can this yes to our clients be generous for us too? And usually there's something for us to come up with to solve that problem with. So, generous yeses are a helpful value to be guided by, and then just no's to. I'm just constantly thankful for our no's, because it simplifies everything so much. Just knowing the things you don't do. Then if one shows up and you go, should I do that? And you just say, oh, and then you don't have to decide again. And so I have lots of things that I think at this point in our work, in our company, that I'll say I do, but I think you do too, I have a hard time taking credit for, because it's just a result of some decision we made a long time ago of things we don't do. And so, I'm just really grateful for that. I'm in circles with other people who are co-founders or running companies, and when I hear about the problems that they have, navigating investors or trying to grow their market share, I don't know, doing all the things that people tend to do, I just go, I wonder what that's like, needing to have to say yes to those sorts of things, because I'm mostly glad that I don't have to.
Or just explaining the things that we do. I always think, what would this company be like if we had investors, if we had a board of directors, if we had people that I had to explain our choices to? Mm-hmm. And our choices don't seem like anything until I remember how this is mostly done. And because we do all of our manufacturing in-house, because all of our products are made from start to finish, from raw ingredient to bottle, in-house, we see the whole thing. We are there for the whole process, and not just that part, but what happens before sourcing. Somebody asked in a comment earlier about sourcing ingredients and how do we ensure that we get the best in the world. I will tell you that job is so far beyond me now. Luckily, Felicia is the team member who's been with us the longest, actually, at this point. She's been with us since 2014.
She has her 8-year anniversary this weekend.
She moved she was at our Chinatown space, our first space, before we were painting stairs. So she was there from the very, very beginning when there was no team. Really, we had hired 3 people, I think, at that point, and those were all hired in the same day. So just prior to moving into Chinatown, a month before, in a period of a month, we went from just myself clinging to this idea with all of me at the moment. I'd stopped working and was just trying to breathe on other things and was just breathing all of the dreams into this. And Robert was doing aerospace and different things. And where was I going with this? And I started thinking about, well, I really needed help. I had a little baby at home, and I was pouring bottles in the middle of the night with a headlamp stuck to my head. On our front porch, we would blend the Problem Solver and the Clean Dirt in a Vitamix in the early years, and it would make these clouds of dust and herbs and spices like you could imagine. And it was intense, and it was messy, and it was a long time ago now. Yeah. But it's funny to look back at that and the evolutions. Now we have, an entire room that's dedicated to making the Problem Solver and the Clean Dirt. That's a clean space and has air filtration and has these big mixers, and it's it's really cool, the evolution, because it was one person at a time. It was going from, a little Vitamix to, whatever the next size up is for bakeries. And then, so there's just been this process of evolution that has come, and we've grown up too. Mm-hmm. I started working on this company when I was 25 years old. I'm 39. There's been some evolution in all of the things, in all of our skill sets, and all of our passions, and all of our desires, all of the things that we want to share. What I was fixated on when I started this company as a 25-year-old, I had been doing bespoke formulations for one-on-one clients who came to me with severe skin conditions, and I would make formulas specific to them, and that was it. That was what I did. I never imagined I would bottle anything. The idea to make something this beautiful, that came later. It came because my clients were in such pain in their relationships with their skin, and I got that, had that. And so I would talk to them, and they would share with me that really all they desired was to feel good, was to feel something when they reached for a bottle, to feel joy and celebration and connection and care, and they'd never had that because their bathrooms were filled with these creams that read eczema and anti-itch and anti-age and anti all of these things, and there was just so much there was so much pain going on in these relationships to self and skin, and it turned me inside out. And all I could think about was, if I'm going to offer something to the world, damn, we just have to do better than that. We just have to do better than that. Like, this is an opportunity to feed and to nourish and to fill and to reset. And yes, the plants are going to do their job, because they do. The plants and the minerals and the oils and the butters and all of that lusciousness that our great Mama Earth has provided us, it's unbelievable, the power that's in those plants. It's why they synthesize the plants. You start with the good thing, and then you try to make it cheap. We're not. We're going with the power, and we're feeding it in, and the real power is in how you feed it in, that intention and that care. And when I just hit a wall one day with what I was doing when I was younger, and I just knew that there was nothing else. There was just nothing else that I could do until I saw this idea through. This wild hair, that it can be, that skincare can be, yes, skin, also care. That skincare can be, yes, formula, yes, results, yes, efficacy, yes, heal the skin, remove the pain, revive those cells, get back to a place of comfort, or find it for the very first time. It can be all of that. But it can also be this extraordinarily beautiful, sensorial, something that you can smell and you can see, and that tingles and that you feel, and that makes you want to be in these precious, precious temporary bodies of ours. And then if we can deliver that to you with the love and the care and the commitment of people who spend all of their time obsessing about this, thinking about this, we have the most unbelievable lives, getting to take care of you, remembering to take care of us.
I just giggle because I don't have. I judge myself for not taking care of myself. As a self-care entrepreneur, it feels hypocritical. And like skincare is certainly like not my main thing. Like we're gifting the clean dirt right now because I like the clean dirt. And actually part of that is like I live with May, right? Like I get to see her do her, like take her little magic hand and put a little cleaner in it and wiggle her little wiggly finger in it and turns it into a perfect little mousse. I've watched her do that thousands of times. It's how I try to do it, and I'm not that good at it. You know, I do it and I go, okay, I think I got it, and then I go to scoop it with my hand and find some big pocket of it that I missed, and so it turns out our tools work. And so I've actually taken to using the brush and the bowl to make the cleaner, and can't do it well in my hand. I can do it 100% in that bowl and brush every time, and so that's fun. Gotten good at doing that, and so yeah, I use the clean dirt. But like I have other self-care practices, and one of which is, wow, it's as old as May Lindstrom Skin, but for the last decade plus, there's a website called 750words.com that it's a digital version of morning pages, and that 750 words is 3 pages about, and anyways, I type for at least 3 pages every day, and that's my only consistent self-care routine. I've done that for a decade though, so that's pretty consistent. Why did I start bringing that up? Oh, just other self-care. And
well, you were saying you do use the clean dirt. And
I do use the clean dirt.
Yourself about self-care, but you do use self-care.
The clean dirt, and then obviously, and like the blue cocoon, it's just I cut myself. I get bit by things. I get sunburned. I have I'm a different kind of white than May. I'm like just like the kind that turns red, and so I can get sunburns and things like that. And so I'm imperfect at applying my sunscreen when I go outside, so then I end up with sunburns, and the blue cocoon helps me fix that. I didn't really start to talk about my self-care practices on purpose. There was a different point to that. Actually, learning is one of my self-care practices. I just really love learning. So I was thinking earlier about some of like my teachers that I really enjoy my work because I get to apply some of their ideas live to what we do together. And so Seth Godin is certainly one of those. And so like the clear thinking is one of my self-care items. And so like I think about my thinking a lot, and I'm curious about when what I'm telling myself is true, or if I've just made it up. And so Seth is an incredibly generous and clear thinker, and he shares the way he tends to think about things in a really generous and open way. And so I'm grateful for him because I try to think like him, but I'm less generous, and I don't share how I think about things with people very often. You can just look at my Instagram, and there's one post per year, and it's me with one of my kids or with May, and like that's probably it. And I'm a horrible text or Instagram friend, so like replying to DMs or texts is not how I spend my time. I spend my time doing something else apparently. And so sorry. learning and thinking about my thinking, says the guy who just trails off in the middle of each thread. But yeah, there's lots of there's just so many like influences on my life that have helped make like what I do at May Lindstrom Skin feel easy and fun for me, that I was really grateful for that too. But I don't know, I cry a lot to our team. We had a team meeting yesterday talking about promotion and how it was going and how the fulfillment was going, or and I just thought about how the fact that there's a handful of us, and there's like a much bigger handful of you, and like just how beautiful it is that the 25 of us get to spend our time like so directly making people's lives better. Like it feels a little egoic to be like, my product makes people's lives better, but I know that it does because of the Happy Clients channel, and because you keep coming back, and the way, like all the stories that I see, and just the way that I see it change my life, even though I don't have some real rigorous skincare practice. It does feel good to feel good, right? To like touch your skin and have it feel smooth and just healthy. To just have it feel healthy and to be healthy. Like health is one of the most sort of powerful gifts we can have, because being alive is wonderful, but being alive and healthy is like the really wonderful thing. And And I know that all of our clients don't necessarily have that that privilege of health. And so I'm also really grateful that we can help people who aren't feeling healthy, or that want more of that and want more sort of ease and gentleness in their own experience of their body. And so, I don't know, that's like, it's an incredible thing to get to do. I feel like I used to have to explain why I worked at a skincare company because of my background as an engineer and a rocket scientist and all that stuff. Like, wow, you do that? Like, what are you doing working at a skincare company? And what's nice is it's been long enough that I don't do that. No one asks me that anymore. So now I just bring it up from time to time. But yeah, like when I worked on that launch site, well, not to disparage that project, but it was definitely a bad idea and should have been canceled. But it was a rocket that brought supplies to the space station, which is cool, except there was already 2 rockets that did that, and this one was not good at it. And so, as hard as that work was and how satisfying it was for me to be an expert at that and have done that work, like I looked around at the work that entire program was doing, and I was like, wow, no one needs this. Like, I don't think anyone's life's better because of this, except for like that we get paid and stuff. And yeah, it all felt pretty like something to be proud of, and that felt impressive, but that maybe didn't really do much. And then the solar related work that I was doing after that, it kind of felt similar. Like I worked really hard and was very skillful at those things, but I might work really hard and be really skillful and put solar on 20 or 30 people's houses, and then feel responsible for their utility bills for the rest of my life. Which is a long time. And so, so I was doing all these other things, and I actually wasn't very satisfied by them, and I was mostly angry and upset all the time. There's whole other conversations about that and the darkness, as I refer to it, and the impact that had on me and my relationship, and yeah, just what I was like. I was mostly an asshole all the time, to be simple about it. But I stopped doing those things, and part of why I was an asshole is I was judging myself for not saving the world, which is a pretty tall ask. But when I stopped doing the solar and I stopped doing the aerospace stuff, and I started showing up at May Lindstrom Skin every day and trying to make what we did there better, like I also got to look around and go, wow, like the work I do here helps more people all the time than anything I ever did. That was impressive, right? That was matched my education or whatever kind of false narrative I would apply to like whether a job was worthy of me, which is a really kind of gross and egoic way of thinking about it too. But that's not, I'll admit I was gross and egoic for a long time. Like y'all lived through your 20s. Being a white male 20-year-old in the 2000s, I definitely had some toxic masculinity aspects and some definitely thinking about myself a lot. And it's been nice to do less and less of that over time and think more and more about other people. And I still think about myself a lot, but I think about other people way a lot more. And it's done my job now. And so I'm really grateful for that job, because it brings out the best parts of me. So thanks for this great job that I've been getting to make up for myself.
Somebody has asked a few times about if our children use anything from the collection, and yes is the simple answer. It's funny because so our kids are 5 and almost 10, and so they're not in a realm where they're using skincare in the way that I use skincare and that I'd encourage you to use skincare, but they are in the realm where caring for their skin is still the most beautiful thing that I think we could possibly teach. Mm-hmm. And what's been really beautiful is I didn't actually have to teach them anything. I just had to teach myself to care for myself in front of my family. In front of my family. In front of my family. And I'm repeating that because it's still a thing that I'm learning. I think in early parts of our relationship, and then soon after we started having babies, and so we've had babies the whole time we've been together practically.
We don't have babies anymore.
And we don't have babies anymore, but they've grown up watching me wander around everywhere I go, tapping on my chest and massaging on myself, and giving myself a neck massage and a scalp massage, and I just walk around doing this all the time, and I forget that I do that. It's like a tick. It's how I operate, because I have this body that gets really excited inside and likes to maintain a lot of calm outside. And sometimes the collision of those things makes me really anxious. And so it feels like my insides are turning outside, and I get really shaky, and you can hear it in my voice. It's happening a little bit when I talk about it, and you've heard that before. I get shaky, my heart goes all pitter-patter, my breath gets funny, my head gets hot, I get sweaty. All the things happen. My hands get clammy, I get slippery, I lose my mind a little bit, and the idea of talking to anyone or being seen by anyone is petrifying. And so I've learned that is a physical thing that's happening for me. And my mind likes to make stories to make sense of the physical thing that's happening in my body. And when my mind starts telling stories about these intense feelings in my body, then my emotions get carried away. And so it cycles and it spins. And so what I've found is that if I can just notice that feeling in my body when it comes up, and I can say, oh, I'm having a physical response in my body and it's intense, and then if I meet my body there, if I meet my skin there, if I return to my touch and my body instead of trying to run away from this feeling, then it cuts off the mental chatter that's making up the stories about it, and it cuts off the emotional cycle that follows, and I get to stay here. I get to stay here in this body. And it's sometimes really hard, and it's sometimes really delicious. And sometimes it's really hard, and then it's really delicious. But because I've found that being intimate with my skin, with my touch, all of the time, not just in the morning when I'm doing my skincare ritual, not just in the evening when I'm doing my skincare ritual, but all of the in-betweens, I function way better, but I feel like I'm here. I haven't left myself in order to be. And for a long time, I didn't realize how often I left myself. When I came into partnership and marriage and family, I became more aware of how often I left myself, because it was very difficult for me to not leave myself in the company of other people. And so when children came into our lives, I really wanted to be able to be in the room and be present and be in relationship. And so touch had to come with me. And so when I'm in the room with people, I tend to be hands-on myself. And so my children have watched me have my hands on myself their whole lives. And now they have these practices too. I didn't teach it to them, I didn't say it with any words, but I watch them. They have their own blue cocoons by their beds. They have a shared one, to be fair. One in the kids' room. They reach for it. They give themselves massages on their sweet little chests when they have a hard time sleeping. They put it in their sweet little noses when they get dried out. They use it when their hands are dry and cracking in the winter. They use it in the summer when they get too much sun or too much wind exposure, and to recover from air conditioning and all of the things that dry us out. Talia, our 10-year-old, she's been asking for baths in recent months, and like really asking for baths like Mama takes baths, asking for me to come and light the candles for her. She's preparing herself snacks. Papa made soup and she ate it in the bathtub. Also, it's a real thing. Bring your food to the bathtub. It's the most nourishing of all practices. It's so silly and delightful and wonderful. Also, that is what lunch breaks are for. If you're a work from homer, put on a mask, get in the bathtub, eat your lunch, rinse, get out, have the best second half of the day of all time.
You've had a eating in the bath practice for a really long time.
A very, very long time. Yeah. When, before May Lindstrom Skin, when I was still working with bespoke clients, I had a chapter where I modeled, and I had a chapter where I was a makeup artist. And in both of those cases, I traveled a lot. I didn't live anywhere for a few years. And so I would just go from city to city and from job to job. And as a hermit introvert, there was some challenges you could imagine. And at the end of the day, I would go back to my hotel room and I would order room service, and I would have room service delivered to the bathroom. and I would have a full dinner plus dessert in the bathtub every night, pretty much. If I wasn't taking myself out to dinner, which I later learned to do confidently by myself in foreign countries and places I don't know with people I don't know, or all alone. Learning to find that connection and relationship to myself, to my body, to my senses. It's just so far beyond the skin, but it does come back to that. Because when I notice that I am neglecting my skincare, when I notice that I'm not showing up in the morning even just to splash water on my face in a little blue cocoon, even if it's just that, when I start skipping that, when I start skipping cleansing before bed, not because you have to clean every single morning and every single night, you don't. It's, for many of us, it's not the best thing for our barrier. But for me, it's a big part of something that goes further than the barrier. And when I skip multiple days of skincare, or even one day, it sets this pattern of me skipping all of the other things that I do to care for myself. And so building it in as fundamentally as brushing my teeth is vital. It's just vital. And so yes, coming back to our kids, Talia now, she got a couple little bumps on her cheeks and they were a little bit itchy, and so, you know, just like the first little kid skin things, prepubescent. And she asked to use the problem solver for the first time, and it was so sweet because she used it and she loved it. And then after, she's laying in bed and she's touching her face and she goes, "Mom, it worked." This thing you made actually worked. And there was something so sweet about her little voice realizing, beyond the blue cocoon, that these formulas all have a purpose. Beyond the parts that she's seen in me, which is the sensory parts, which is the, you know, self-care parts, which is the just coping with the humaning part, is what she gets to observe. But she'd never identified with the skin need before and the skin result before. And so even seeing that in her, you know, not even 10-year-old self was very precious. feel very optimistic that our babies will just have touch as a fundamental in their life. And I come on these lives every week-ish. I keep coming on them because I keep hearing from all of you that actually seeing what it looks like in the shower, on real skin, with actual touch, the way I actually use the products, with the funny faces and the snot in my nose and the mess everywhere and the clean dirt in my armpits and the whole thing. Doing it like that in the way that I actually do, the way that actually serves me, I just hear that you're doing that now too. And not just on a special occasion, and not just when you've had a breakout, and not just when something's gone wrong and there's a problem to solve, but as daily medicine, as daily care, as this precious way of returning to yourself. So I hope that that's what we instill. I haven't looked at these. I'm going to do a quick scan, and then there was a couple questions I want to make sure are done. I was paying so much attention.
Were there any general questions for me earlier?
No, everyone was just being adorable. So many of you who asked more specific skincare questions, we are going to follow up with you by DM. So if you asked a specific skincare question that we didn't answer, this recording will go up right after, and you can drop your question in there and I'll respond either by DM or with a video, so that we can cover everything. I don't want you to be skipped. I also just know that I will talk to you for 2 hours. And the skincare specific ones are really helpful when I can actually be in the shower and with the products and showing you. And I won't take Robert in with me for that on our very first Zoom together. Zoom. I'm reading your comments, thank you. Except I am similar. I feel like I'm flying around with ideas and all.
And they ground themselves
That
with spoons.
anxiety, except I ground myself with spoons of peanut butter. I'm going to carry around my jasmine garden instead. Okay, so
That's one of the tactics you use too.
we also will carry around spoons of peanut butter. And as you've seen in my stories, I'm more of a Nutella girl myself.
Right, or like a Justin's peanut butter cup. You tend to take your peanut butter in the form of a peanut butter cup.
So
sorry if I outed
these
you.
are. Oh, you can out me. I should
you've not been outed.
There's no secrets here. Ice cream in the bathtub is the most wonderful thing of all possible time. So treats are highly encouraged. They're a big part of the whole thing. Oh, thank you for all of your comments. I know we're distracted while we're reading them, but this is a conversation with you. These are, so I have to actually read them. I never understand how I could do a live and turn off comments, because otherwise, why? I could just talk to myself and have a little less live pressure. But feeling all of you, having you all be here, it really is the most unbelievable thing. There were a couple things. Question I'm not going to answer. Can I rinse problems out? Okay, specific. What's your biggest piece of advice for starting up a family-run business?
I'm highly resistant to giving advice. Advice that I could give to an answer to that question would immediately be bad, because there'd be no context for how it would work for your family or what that business is. So that's a tricky one, but this is definitely a family business. Like, obviously, May and I are family.
Yeah, tell them about the families.
Within our company, there are 4 families that account for 40% of employees probably. So there's May and I, and my sister works for May Lindstrom Skin, Tina, one of the Care Bears. And then there's an entire family of sisters, all of whom have worked for us, and four sisters who've all worked for us, and 3 of them currently do. So big gratitude to, I don't know if they want me to say, I'm not going to say their names on here in case they didn't want me to. Yeah, and then there's a mother and son who are on our team as well, and 2 brothers. So, yeah, word of mouth is how we've grown our clientele. It's how we've grown our actual employee base as well. And I don't know, I take that as a good sign. It's my first time being an employer for the last 10 years, but you know, May and I have both had lots of random jobs, and so it's actually in a way set us up to know what it's like to have one and what makes a job a good job or not. And you know, again, seeing into the future, there's certainly things I want to make better and improve, but yeah, anyways, the fact that someone might work for us, and when there's an opportunity to for there to be more work to be done at our company, that they go, hey, I know someone, and it's like their family member, is just something that I'm really proud of, because the stories people tell about lots of jobs, you wouldn't invite strangers to come do them, let alone people you love or care about. And so it means a lot to me that the work we do means enough to our employees that they would want more of their family to come do it, that we all get to work together and to support each other. Is you know, the family analogy of a business is a common one and a problematic one, again, because most people's there's lots of family stories that aren't great, and so why one would model their business after that is an interesting question. I like the idea and sentiment of it, and we certainly feel like a family. I want our company to sort of not be a family, because if you leave a place, leaving a family is bad, usually. And so I don't want May Lindstrom Skin to be a bad place to leave. I want it to be a great place to have been from. Yeah. If anyone works for us doesn't want to work here anymore, and that happens, and I think in most cases that's been true, that it's been a good place to be from, where we've learned new ways of being, or skills, or just hopefully the ways of being. I think the ways of being, or maybe the culture that persists with people when they leave May Lindstrom Skin, that you can hopefully realize that a lot of what we do in modern times are chosen. We chose almost all of this. And so there's a lot of power and responsibility in that, and it can be tiring to realize, like, oh, there isn't someone else who will choose. And like, oh, I could just use someone else's playbook, but then if I fail, it'll be at someone else's game. And failing at someone else's game is probably the only way to fail. It's a way to fail where you're probably not going to learn what you. It's so generalized. But you're asking about making a family business. Like having people specialize feels like a good recommendation. Knowing who is the boss is really important.
Who to default to.
Who to default to.
Like we both have different roles, but there's particular things that will fall under.
Right. If there's a question of whether something is sufficiently beautiful or how the copy should be, I'm definitely gonna ask me, does this product feel like there's all sorts of questions sort of like that. But then if it comes to like operations or how things are gonna interact with each other, or that kind of thing, then it goes to me. And so, but in a family-run business where there's maybe less, maybe there's more people. Like having 2 is pretty straightforward. Having 4 or 5, or having multiple generations, you'll note like neither of our parents work for us or with us, or like we don't, our kids aren't old enough yet, so that might change over time. But yeah, like that's a really curious question. That's one that I'd love to probably think about more in specific. But yeah, like who's the decider, or how will decisions be made, especially tough ones? That's a good question for really any business. And like one of the things that I might ask so that you know ahead of time is, well, what does success look like is a good question. Like in your family business or just in any business, lots of people start a business so that they can sell it. And so taking on investors and growing quickly and having that all look a certain way so that you can then sell it, or have it perform a certain way so that you can then sell it is one way to do it. And that's not like why or how we started May Lindstrom Skin, so we get to do it totally different than if we had a different version of success. And so like, you know, my definition of success for us is that I've built a job that I love, and that I've built one for May that she loves, and then that we built jobs for all of our employees that they love. And certainly for May and I, since we get to choose all of this stuff, if we've created jobs for ourselves that we don't like, that's an interesting thing to notice and then potentially do something about. So yeah, so this family business, I don't know that it really depends on whether it's family or not. You know, one of the beauties of having a family business is I completely trust May. Right. And so it's really straightforward to trust her, and May trusts me. And so like I do all our finances. We make all big decisions. Like I could just be someone she hired. Right? And then be like, oh my God, like, do I trust that guy? Like we're making big moves. Like, is it going to be okay? And we don't have to wonder about that. We still get to wonder about that, but not about the two of us. And so, so there can be some trust that's built into the family relationship or not. That can be really informative and educational on how you go about doing things together. But yeah, having it all be under sort of one household from a decision-making standpoint simplifies a lot.
Yeah, let me follow that off of here. Someone asked, how do you delineate between work and life, not bring families home?
Or that would be...
Yeah.
Yeah, let's have May start the answer to this one.
I would say that we're pretty unboundaried.
Yeah.
I'd say we're pretty unboundaried in how we bring work home. I think that our work oozes out of every cell of us at all times, pretty much for a long time. For a long time, that's been true. And our relationship to that truth is what has shifted, I think. I think as humans, we might be wired in a way that has us be obsessive about the things that we're passionate about. And this has been our focus, our shared focus, for 12 years. And so it comes home all the time. Where we are right now, this is our kitchen, this is our home.
Sure.
At the end of the day, when I log offline and stop talking with all of you, and when Robert locks up our studio and our team and everyone leaves for the day, we come back here and we talk about work at the dinner table, and we talk about work as we're cooking, and we talk about work as we put the kids to sleep, and we talk about work as we sit outside after looking at the stars. And there's been years when that's been problematic for me, where I was pretty dissatisfied with that and wanted to have more of a break. And I'd still say that that is probably true. But I also have more of an understanding and more grace now for the different chapters of life. And this is a chapter where this is our world. This is what we do. This is what we wake up thinking about. It's what we're on fire about. It's what we're passionate about. To wake up and get to do what we do is really an honor, and sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's a lot, and sometimes it's overwhelming, and sometimes I wish that I could clock off and log out and not think about it, and just, show up to something that I may be a little bit less invested in. But I also know that's not even a true story about me. I know that when I had other jobs and I didn't care, I didn't show up. And I know that I'm obsessed with showing up, and when I am not here, not present, even if I'm just traveling or I have to be offline for something, or I'm unwell, or some other thing takes me away for a little bit of time, I feel it. You're my people. This is the thing that I do. And so I have grace with that, but I also know that pushing up against those edges, when I do start to hit the wall, Robert referred to me as the canary in the coal mine earlier. And I think sometimes what has to happen is for us to reach a certain peak and then go and refresh and reset new kind of boundaries around it. And usually that comes with us realizing that we've been fretting about or stressing about or being anxious about or telling ourselves stories from a place of fear or insecurity or overwhelm or disconnect or something. And then I think it's good that we hit a wall because it makes us come to each other and go, all right, what needs to shift here? And sometimes it's a new system, sometimes it's a new hire, sometimes it's just us knowing that we can throw our hands up and let go for a few hours and just be present and enjoy each other and our family. And then we do that, and then we realize that the world didn't break and everybody's fine, and then we do it some more. And so, I don't know, we're doing what all of you are doing. We're just trying to figure out how to be in these lives where, we work and we play and we family and we solo time, and we are hard on ourselves and we're gentle on ourselves and we're loving on ourselves, and then we're hard on ourselves some more, and we go in these circles and we build the tools, and we're just figuring it out. We're just figuring it out. And
it's all made up. Everything that everyone does all the time, it's all made up. So, again, doesn't make it any easier, but it's it helps to see things as they are.
Let me see.
So the work-life boundary thing too. There's also two other ways that May and I are very dissimilar. And this is probably a new learning or language at least, is that I'm a verbal external processor, and May's an internal nonverbal processor. And so I think that's harder for May than it is for me. Because I will be thinking about something and I'll be talking about it. Mostly to myself. Not always. I want to be like, hey, this is the thing I've been thinking about. And then I just, and she's like, oh my God, it's like 10 at night. And I've been, so I'm not always very compassionate about thinking about whether May wants to receive me thinking to myself. And so that's definitely a lesson.
Where so much of my powerful self-care practices come from, though.
Like, oh my God! If I
huge catalyst for my personal care.
Some deep quiet by yourself, or not by So a lot of times by yourself. You do it in front of us, but it's I don't want to contradict you. But I mean, let's see. Yeah, I've taken 0 baths in our bath, and that's my plan. So we have different ways of caring for that. But yeah, the work-life boundary thing is interesting. It's also a little tricky. May and I don't really work together very much. Mm-hmm. From exactly what we were talking about before, like our skill sets don't necessarily overlap. And so sometimes there's actually the biggest communication disconnect in our company might be between the two of us because we don't work together during the day. And so, but after work we're together. And so I'll be like, oh, there's that thing I wondered about, right? Or like, oh, someone asked me that question, but like, that's not a question for me, that's a question for you. So that kind of, there's definitely a bleeding, there's not a strong boundary there always. And so, but again, it's a dynamic. It comes and goes. Actually, that's like one of the favorite, I'm just going to tell you about an idea that I like because I'm an external verbal processor and I just thought of something. But there's it's an idea that was like really beautiful and powerful to me. It's called polarity management. I'm sorry if this is super boring, but like but it's a really, really helpful framework about how to think about things, especially things that change that feel like they shouldn't. And so one example might be our work boundary and whether it's strong or not. Maybe I should make up an example on the fly. Because like one simple example of polarity management is like the individual versus the group. And if you're making decisions, that's like a pretty straightforward way to think about it. And like, if you're an individual making a decision, there's lots of positives to that, right? Like I can be fast, like I'll get to decide. But then some negatives of that are, but it'll just be my ideas. It might not be what everyone else wants. Those are kind of the same thing. There's some other negatives, right? And positives of group decision making, you get a diversity of ideas. You can have an abundance of them. But some of the negatives, it's like it might be slow, like how we wouldn't actually decide. And so the point being there is that because there's these two poles and they're opposite, when you're in the positive of one, you're getting all these benefits until it starts to dip down into the negatives, and the only way out of the negatives is into the positives of the other. And so the positives of the group decision making are how you move out of the negatives of the individual, and then they start to become entrenched in the negatives of the group decision making, and the positives of the individual can be there. And so May and I have a lot of those things where there's a dynamic then that happens. And so the point I was making, or the reason I was bringing up that idea is it can be dissatisfying, like, but I thought I figured this out, and then it starts to change. And when you see that model's there, change is built into it. It's supposed to be moving around like dynamically back and forth between these different poles. And so then there's just a comfort in knowing that it will change and allowing that. That's why I brought that up. That's that it's a dynamic, and it's certainly been at both opposite ends of those poles lots of different times over the last 12 years, and it will continue to move because it's not fixed. Especially because we're not fixed. We've changed a lot and stay very the same in other ways, but we've changed a lot. Yeah. And I hope that keeps happening, because that's called being alive.
All right. Biggest challenge? What is your biggest challenge and biggest reward?
May Lindstrom Skin?
May Lindstrom Skin. Yeah. Start with the challenge.
Asking for help. It's probably the main one. I'm a doer, and I'm independent, and I was a lone wolf once upon a time, and I definitely have a do-it-yourself streak, and that's can be problematic when you start being not by yourself. And so, yeah, asking for help is one of my challenges. Less and less though, just impatience is a challenge. Probably mostly impatience with myself. But there's definitely like a good chunk there where I felt late all the time, or I felt like I didn't have enough time. Still happens now. But the fear that I'd miss something, or that people would be waiting for me, and was kind of around for a pretty long time. And then I realized that whatever I might have been feeling behind on, I can catch up. I'm fast. And so I got to relax a lot more once I realized that. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't need to stay on top of everything all the time. I'm mostly not on top of everything most of the time, right? Like that's actually one of the most beautiful things of this company and the work that I do together with this team, is when I start to have a narrative in my head of like lots of me, only me. There's all these people that I work with that are just like right in front of me, proving a very strong counter to whatever story I had made up about how I had to do everything by myself. And so, like at our company with these 25 people, I'm mostly not telling people what to do. Like I might specify some things sometimes, or I'm, in a promo mode. Like now, like I'm in like operations mode. Like people kind of do what I say, but there's all sorts of activity being done that I don't have anything to do with, other than that we created the conditions for it to occur. And so, remembering that is one of the challenges that I have. It's pretty, actually, it gets easier and easier, but yeah, that feels like a strong challenge. And then the other challenge is, is the disconnect between reality and the future that I envision. And I tend to not let that be dissatisfying to me, or look at the current state of affairs and be bummed out. But yeah, like I want us to have more resources where I can play all of our employees more. There's all sorts of things that I want for you, that I want for our product, for whatever. There's all sorts of things. And then I also look around and go, okay, well, we're a small team. There's only so many things we can do at a time. And so we're not going to do all the things. That's true for every company and everyone. You can probably do like 2 or 3 things like a year that are of note and of interest. And so that's not very many things. And as an improver and fixer of things, like I would like the number to be more than that, but it doesn't need to be. And so I can just let things be good. So that's both the challenge and a reward. Getting to the place where I can just allow things to be nice because they are. When things aren't nice, I tend to not just be okay with allowing that. And so I guess that's a reward, that I have the ability to do something about it when things aren't nice a lot of the time. Just always checking my own thing. He's like, can I actually do that? Actually, that was a big challenge for me at the beginning of COVID. It was just sort of a philosophical conversation in myself, because we had in-person operations through all the pandemic and had no COVID on our team until the Omicron wave came through at the very end of 2021 in our very first in-person cases. And for the almost 2 years that led up to that, I would check my thinking and go, oh, does all of this feel good because no one's gotten sick yet? What will happen when the first person gets sick, or the second person gets sick, or when the first person dies? Right. It doesn't feel good to pose that, but it's an option, right? It's an option today. Not necessarily about COVID, but like any one of our employees could just die. Any of the people that we care about could, like all of these things, it's existential. And it's a challenging responsibility to potentially hold. And it's also it's also noteworthy to go, oh, and I'm not actually responsible for the entire lives of our employees. And that's actually a challenge for me, because I don't want to infantilize our employees and pretend like they don't know how to live their lives, because they absolutely do. They're smart and totally capable people. But I also want to help them and fix it and make everything easy and okay for them. And so the challenge of knowing where my control or where my power ends. And it's actually pretty close. It's pretty nearby, which is thoroughly disappointing but true. And so so I try for all of us to be able to just make as much out of these circumstances we have as possible. I felt pretty vague.
A number of people have asked about if we have coaches or any kind of spiritual or otherwise counseling.
Sure, there's other teachers. So Seth Godin is definitely
And then we're gonna wrap up.
He's not like a spiritualist, right? But yeah, Seth Godin's definitely like a teacher of mine that there was an over-under yesterday when I announced to the team that I was going to be on the live of how many times I'd cry. And shockingly, it's been 0 times. I almost started to cry right then. I don't know why I breathed it down. But, yeah. Anyways, I'm very grateful to Seth Godin. There's a company called Reboot.io, that is a mindfulness leadership company. I actually got tuned into them originally through their podcast. The founder of that company, Jerry Colonna, was a business partner with Fred Wilson. Fred Wilson was one of the most famous venture capitalists in the world, and even though I don't use venture capital money, I was at least enough of a student of business and entrepreneurship long enough to pay attention to venture capitalists. Anyways, Fred Wilson, super smart venture capitalist, very generous, does blogging in public, and usually has interesting ideas about things. Anyways, his old partner, Jerry, was a venture capitalist and kind of had a midlife crisis and became a Buddhist and does mindfulness training for leaders. And so I've been in a non-CEO co-founder group of other non-CEO co-founders, pretty obscure group of people who want to lead their companies mindfully for, I honestly don't know how long I've done that with them, but for 5 or 6 years. And actually that's been one of the more beautiful things over the last couple years. We'd normally have team events and holiday parties and things like that, and we had less of those. And with our sort of already hybrid team, like how to have everyone doing something together has been hard over the last couple of years. And we've actually had Reboot come in and facilitate like full team Zoom experiences together that have been really beautiful and connective and opening for the team. We've done a few. It's time to do one of those again. It's been a while. Like October 15th was the last time we did one, which was a long time ago already. But yeah, those have been really nice to... Actually, here's a little riff that I want to share about one of the experiments we're doing at May Lindstrom Skin as a company. There's lots of writing in the world about, like tech companies and their benefits, or like what work is like for the sort of new idea worker working at a computer, things like that. And so a company like ours, where we're a manufacturer, right? Like we don't describe it as a factory, but like there's a little factory down the street that we run that makes our products, and we call it a studio. We make it beautiful. We don't want it to be loud or dirty or a challenging place to just physically be all the time. We want it to look and feel not like a factory. But what's been interesting is in all that writing of like benefits for employees and those sort of stuff, it's like almost always for, it's not for everyone. Like it's for people who work at computers, is like how that kind of idea and that kind of writing tends to be in the world. And what I'm really curious about, and I think we all are, is like, well, what if we just treated everyone that well? Like, what if everyone just didn't have to worry about whether they got hurt, and if they had enough money to eat and have shelter and all the, like, this Maslow's hierarchy, like base of the pyramid kind of stuff. And like, what if we created work environments where everyone was having like Maslow's hierarchy of needs addressed right there? And so, so we do that. We do those same sorts of ideas. Like I try to just steal from people all the time. There's a company called Rework that like they have innovative benefits packages where they have a hobby fund, or they do like they do all these things for tech companies. And so like every time there's an interesting benefit at a tech company, I just try to steal it and like give it to not tech people and go, well, what if we just what if people got massages at work because they actually use their bodies and their arms and their hands and could use care. I actually missed that benefit. I'm hoping we can probably bring that back soon. But yeah, and so how to like enrich the lives of our fulfillment and production and our customer service teams. Those aren't the groups that normally get like really well taken care of at most companies, and that's all our company is. Our whole company is those those kinds of jobs, and absolutely, the people who do those jobs are worthy of extraordinary care. Right? Like, that's actually another, like the Happy Clients channel is one of my sort of things, and you've received a note from May that says you are worthy of extraordinary care, and like really that is the reward of my job. Is that's my job description, is to just go around and prove that sentence is true to everyone we interact with all the time. And so like, it's not a sentence I would inherently believe is true about me. Like, that's probably one of the things that I've been growing about, is like that I'm worthy of care, that I'm worthy of love. Just basic. It's not basic, it's actually hard to do, but once you realize that and have faith in that, as opposed to a belief in that, if you just go around operating under that faith that people are worthy of extraordinary care and deliver it, or contribute to it, there's just like, there's nothing better in the world to me than that. And so, yeah. Oh, maybe this will make me cry. So, a while ago, I got invited to one of our employees' birthday parties. And it was really beautiful to me to have even been invited, because like, it's not a given that you invite your boss to your birthday party. And I was there, and it was a family affair. It's a backyard barbecue. Kids are there. They're playing with kids playing. There's adults hanging out, eating. And I was talking to one of the family members, and earlier, and we had a nice conversation, and it was pretty late. I was actually trying to, May was out of town. I was driving home from Sedona, and I was like, kids, we need to leave or we're not going to beat mommy home. And so we were going to leave, and and I was just saying bye to this man that I've been talking to, and he was a stranger. I met him that day, and he was like, hey, I just want you to know, all of this is because of you. And it doesn't sound, well, it looks like I'm not going to cry, but like that was an expression of gratitude that was totally honest of him and true. It was super hard for me to receive, and like, if I let it be true, it was really overwhelming. And it's funny that it's overwhelming, because that's the only thing I want to do. That's the whole point of my job, is for what that man said to me to be true. And it was. And it's just a really beautiful thing to know. And that's one instance of that. There's probably untold instances of that. And so knowing that that's true is just totally, like, reward is not the right word. I don't know a word big enough to really really wrap around what it means. For that to have ever been true about me in one instance is pretty amazing. And so, anyways, that's the reward that my job is my job. It's my job to do. Or it's certainly the job I've chosen. Thank you. Because again, without all of you, I wouldn't get to do that. So, yesterday I was giving a little pep talk sometimes with our my external processing, and one of the things that I view May Lindstrom Skin is for is, it feels like sort of mechanical and weird when I start to say it out loud right now. But like, we take beautiful things, right? We receive beautiful packaging and glassware and ingredients from around the world. We do something that makes it even more beautiful and then send it out into the world. And so things are just moving by us all the time. It's just moving by. We don't try to keep it. We don't try to hold on to it tight. We try to breathe more goodness into it and then pass it on to where it needs to really go. And and so being less and less in the way, it being less and less about me, but more and more about you and the people that are doing it, is like all I want to spend my time thinking about. If I'm not hanging out with May, for my kids, for my friends. And that's all I think about. except for when I'm hanging with my kids and friends, and sometimes when I'm doing that too. So thanks for having me, darling. Thanks for inviting me. Oh, you guys didn't invite me. She invited me. Thanks for I don't know, having her Instagram on or not while this is happening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being here and for all of your comments and for engaging with us and for being here so that we can take care of you. Being here so that we remember why it is that we do what we do, why we do it the way that we do it. Being able to share this with each other, with our team, with this whole community of this whole entire beauty space is different when we make choices that ripple out into the world. And know that the choices that we have made have shaped spaces far beyond us. And I'm touched by that, I'm honored by that, I'm humbled by that, Thank you for being with us. Thank you for letting me share my Robert with you. We're going to go about our day. We're going to get back to our team. I am going to save this for all of you who left comments here. If you're inspired, please come back and leave your comments so that anyone watching the replay can find them. Your questions too. If you left questions and we didn't answer them, that's how I can send you a DM. So please, please, please come back, leave that here, and we'll see you soon. I'll bring my sweetheart back again.
Yeah, now that I've been here, I'll invite myself. And it's time,
there's things to talk about. So thank you so much. Have beautiful, beautiful days. Please go take your lunch in the bathtub. Bring your favorite snacks. We love you. Take beautiful care.